Hello, this is the week 3 async recording. All right, let's get started. So we're going to be talking about the distributive property today. So some lesson intentions here. I will be able to understand the distributive property. I will be able to rewrite multiplication problems to make them easier to solve. I will understand situations where PEMDAS is useful, and likewise where distribution is useful, and the first letter of the quiz code. So first letter of the quiz code is H as in happy. H as in happy. Okay. One last time, H as in happy. Great. So what is the distributive property? So if you look at this diagram here, it says for any three rational numbers, A, B, and C. So rational is another way of saying any number that is either a fraction or a decimal, positive, negative. It's essentially all the numbers that we deal with. What you have here is this A times B plus C, and it gives you this. So what you're doing is taking whatever number is on the outside of your parentheses. So here it's an A, and you are multiplying it to everything inside. Okay, so you have A times B, and you have A times C. And whatever sign you have in between your B and C stays the same. Okay, so all you're doing is taking whatever is outside of the parentheses and multiplying it to everything inside. Right. What that looks like with numbers is this. So we have 2 times 7 plus 4. Okay, so you want to take this 2 and multiply it to the 7. So 2 times 7. Then you're going to have your plus sign in the center. And you're going to take your 2 and multiply it to the 4. Okay, so it'll look like this. Your 2 times 7 plus, remember your sign stays the same, 2 times 4. Then from here, all you're going to do is just multiply. So 2 times 7 is 14, 2 times 4 is 8, and then add them together. Get 22. You could also do it going backwards. So instead of the number being on the left, it could also be on the right. You do the same exact thing. So you would have 3 times 6, and then 3 times 5, okay? And your plus sign in the center stays the same. Okay, so whatever sign you have in between these two numbers inside your parentheses gets brought down as well. So 5 times 3 is 15, 6 times 3 is 18, and then you add them together and get 33. Okay, so remember when you're distributing, the outside number has to be multiplied to everything inside. Okay, it's not just the first one and it's not just the last one, it's everything inside. You're distributing the 2 to everything. All right, so let's do some examples with distributive property and PEMDAS. So we're going to solve each equation using both. So first, we're going to distribute. So remember, when you're distributing, you have this negative 5 times 6, and then you have negative 5 times 8. Okay, and in the center is your plus sign. Okay, plus sign stays the same. Negative 5 times 6 is negative 30. Negative 5 times 8 is negative 40. Now remember your rules for adding integers. Okay, if you have the same sign, you add the numbers, keep the sign. Okay, so same sign, negative plus negative, add the numbers, keep the sign. So you should get negative 70. So that's distributing, taking this negative 5 and multiplying it to everything inside here. When you are solving this with PEMDAS, the P in PEMDAS stands for parentheses, so that means we are going to solve this math inside the parentheses first, which is addition, so 6 plus 8. Okay, so 6 plus 8 is 14. This negative 5 is going to stay on the outside. So now I have negative 5 times 14, which still gives me negative 70. So notice that my answer is the same, even though I used 2 different methods to solve it. All right, and the second letter of the quiz code is O as in octopus. O as in octopus. So you should have H as in happy and O as in octopus. Okay. Another example. So when you are using distributive property here, this looks different because there's no addition or subtraction in between any of these numbers, right? You're looking at this and going, well, those two numbers are just being multiplied together. However, what you can do is take this fraction, this negative 3 and 1/4, and break it down into two separate components. So meaning take this negative 3 and this 1/4 and break them apart. So what that looks like is this. So you're taking this negative 3 and multiplying it by negative 4 still. And then you're taking this 1/4 over here and this negative 4 still. Now this 1/4 is negative because this whole quantity here is negative. Okay, you can't forget the negative sign, otherwise you'll get a different answer. So when you're doing this, if this is negative, remember you have to bring your negative to both numbers. Okay, and then you multiply it by the negative 4 because this whole thing is being multiplied by negative 4. So all you're doing is separating your fraction and multiplying it by negative 4. So from here, we can do negative 3 times negative 4, which is positive 12. And remember, when you are multiplying, you have to change your whole numbers to a fraction. And you do that by just putting them over 1, and then you multiply straight across the top, straight across the bottom. So 1 times 4 is 4. 4 times 1 is 4, so what we get is 4 over 4, which is just 1. And this one is positive because this is a negative times a negative. My signs are the same, and I'm multiplying, so it's positive. And then 12 times 1, 12 plus 1 is 13. Okay. Now we're going to solve the same exact problem, but using PEMDAS. So since I'm using PEMDAS here, I just need to multiply these two numbers together. However, before I can multiply this number first, I need to change this to a mixed number. Sorry, an improper fraction. This is a mixed number. To change it to an improper fraction, you do denominator times your whole number. So 4 times 3, and then add your numerator. So 4 times 3 is 12, plus 1 is 13, which is how I get this 13 here, and that's all over 4. Okay, so negative 13 over 4. Now remember, this 4 has to be changed to a fraction. You do that by putting it over 1. Okay, so negative 4 over 1. Then multiply straight across the top, straight across the bottom. So 13 times 4 is 52. 4 times 1 is 4. And this is positive because I have a negative times a negative, which gives me my positive number here. Now this, when you divide it, 52 divided by 4 is 13. So again, we get the same answer. Okay. We're going to do one last example solving it both ways. So this one has decimals. It's okay. It's the same exact process. It just has decimals now. So you're going to take this negative 4, multiply it to 3.1, and the negative 4 and multiply it to the 1.9. Okay, the plus sign stays in between. So negative 4 times 3.1 plus, remember, bring your plus sign down, negative 4 times 1.9. Okay, so negative 4 times 3.1 is negative 12.4. Negative 4 times 1.9 is negative 7.6. So once I'm at this step here, my signs are the same, and I'm adding, so that means I'm going to add my numbers and keep my sign. So when you add 12.4 and 7.6, you get 20, and it's negative because both of my numbers above it are negative. Remember, when you're adding and your signs are the same, you add the numbers, keep the sign. Okay, so now when we move on and do this with PEMDAS, remember P for PEMDAS stands for parentheses, so we're going to add what's inside here first. So 3.1 plus 1.9. Okay, so negative 4 times 5. 3.1 plus 1.9 is 5. And from here, all we have to do is multiply. So negative 4 times 5. Remember, my signs are different, and I'm multiplying. So my answer is going to be negative, so negative 20. Okay, so we got negative 20 both ways. Now here are those three examples that we just did. Okay, so here are the three examples. Example 1, example 2, and example 3. Okay, where do you think PEMDAS is easier or faster to solve? And where do you think distributing is easier or faster to solve? This is really up to your personal preference. If you think PEMDAS is easy and you like using PEMDAS, so like down here or down here or down here, then use it. It's fine. Or if you like distributing, like this fraction up here, you thought it was nice to be able to break it down and do one step at a time, then use distributing. Okay, there are some times where, like in this last example, if I just add what's in these parentheses and I get a whole number, that's super easy, but it won't always be like that. So just know that you have two options when you're solving problems like this. Okay. And the third letter of your quiz code is going to be N as in noon. N as in noon. Okay, so far you should have H-O-N. H-O-N. Okay. So now what we're going to be doing is we're going to solve a more complex problem using PEMDAS, and then we're going to solve it using the distributive property. So first we're going to do PEMDAS, and remember the P in PEMDAS stands for parentheses. So what we're going to do is combine our parentheses here. So negative 1/3 minus 3. Okay, that's going to give us negative 3 and a third. Okay, so P is just simplifying the parentheses. So whatever is inside here, you're just simplifying, which is how we got this negative 3 and 1/3. Okay, how I got this was this negative 3 minus, sorry, this negative 1/3 minus 3. When you combine those, you're essentially adding your numbers and keeping the sign. Okay. So from here, I don't have any exponents, and I don't have any other math operations to perform in the parentheses, because now I just have numbers in my parentheses. So I'm going to move on to the M, which is multiplication. So when I'm doing my multiplication, I'm just going to move from left to right, which means I'm going to multiply these first two numbers first. Okay, so negative 5 and 6. Okay, so negative 5 times 6 is what gives me this negative 30 here. Okay. Now, when I look at all of this, I just have a bunch of multiplication. So I'm going to do multiplication again. However, I have to change this mixed number, this negative 3 and 1/3, to an improper fraction. Okay, so 3 times 3 is 9, plus 1 is 10. That's how I get this 10, and it's over 3. So now I can multiply these two, the negative 30 times negative 10 over 3. That gives me 100. Okay, so 30 times 10 is 300. Divided by 3 gives me this 100. And then next, we're just going to keep multiplying. Okay, so 100 times 7.1 gives you 710. And then we're done. Okay, so that's using PEMDAS. Next, we're going to be using distribution. Okay, so it's the same exact problem, but we're going to solve it using distribution this time. So you're going to take this 6 and multiply it to the negative 1/3, and then you're going to take this 6 and multiply it to the 3. Okay, this minus sign is going to stay in between them. So notice this minus sign is the same. I just brought it straight down. Okay, now here I need to simplify what's in my brackets first, which means I need to do 6 times negative 1/3 and 6 times 3. So when you do that, the 6 times negative 1/3 gives you negative 2, and 6 times 3 is 18. Okay, now here I'm just going to simplify what's inside my bracket. So negative 2 minus 18 gives you negative 20. And then I'm just going to start multiplying from left to right, because all I have is multiplication left. So negative 5 times negative 20 is positive 100. Remember, your signs are the same and you're multiplying, so it's positive. And then times 7.1, which gives you 710. So both ways we got the same answer, the 710. It's just a matter of whether or not you think this distribution step up here first is easier, or if you like doing the PEMDAS where you combine this first and then just multiply everything. Okay, so here are both methods side by side. So here's the PEMDAS on the left, and here's the distribution on the right. Okay, notice that our last two steps for both of these are the same, and we get the same answer both times. It's just a matter of how we started. So up here, we combined our parentheses first, and on this distribution side, we distributed this 6. Okay, so if this step right here was confusing you or you weren't sure or if you're afraid with these fractions, sometimes doing it this way is a bit easier and less daunting because you're only multiplying a 6 and a 1/3. You don't have to worry about changing this to an improper fraction and making sure your multiplication is right all the way down. Okay, so it's really up to you whether you prefer method 1 or method 2. Both are fine. It's whichever you are more comfortable with. Okay, the fourth letter of the quiz code is E as in elephant. E as in elephant. So you should have H-O-N-E. You can probably guess what the quiz code is by now, but you'll get that last letter on this next slide. Okay, so do I understand the distributive property? Hopefully that is a yes. Can I rewrite multiplication problems to make them easier to solve? Do I understand situations where PEMDAS is useful? And do I understand situations where distribution is helpful? Hopefully that's a yes for all four of those. If you're still struggling with any of these, or if you just want some more help or practice problems with distribution, please let me know. Okay, we can set up a time and we'll go over some of those. And the last letter is Y as in yellow. Y as in yellow. Okay, so all together you should have H-O-N-E-Y. All lowercase, okay, all lowercase, no capitals, H-O-N-E-Y. Or honey. No capitals. Okay. So you do have an exam this Thursday, the 22nd. I would suggest looking over workbook questions and reviewing checkpoint questions. Okay, a lot of the questions that you're going to see on your first exam are very similar to the ones that you were asked to solve in workbooks and in checkpoints. Okay, so don't forget that you have that exam on Thursday. And if you have any questions, always email, message, call me. I'm here to help you. Bye.